I think credentials are overrated. Well, George, I don't have a resume. I don't have either of those. In fact, I don't even like business. Give me 15 minutes. If it soars, put me on the team. And if it stinks, throw me out the back door. Boy, was that a great presentation. That was a great speech. So I said, there are three really big points here that if somebody knew these big points, it could create a huge change or shift in their life. And so that's what I'd love to talk about today. Those three.
Please do.
Okay. Number one, people always say, what's the number one impediment to entrepreneurship, to developing something new, to making a shift? And I think it's boundaries. I think people get stuck because they think they're not good enough. And the good enough thing comes from what I call over relying. I think credentials are overrated. Now, Jill, I'm not an idiot. If you and I, God forbid, got in an automobile accident, we'd want to be taken to a hospital and operated on by someone who went to medical school, who had an internship and a residency. If they're going and opening up my brain, I would prefer credentials. But in soft skill development, the kinds of things you and I have been doing our entire life, it's really breaking through boundaries. And my favorite story, I'll share it with everyone, is, and people ask me this all the time, so I'm just going to foreshadow this. Do you change when you're suffering or do you change when you're on a roll? And in my life, in the 7 invention, it's a 4-to-3 balance. I'm going to tell you a story to begin with where I was as good as it gets, making great money. From the outside, I should have been the happiest guy in the whole world. I was a tennis pro. I had a list of people that would pay any amount of money to take privates. I had clinics that were full. I had 30 pros working for me. I had a pro shop with stringing money and all kinds of money coming in. And I was a kid with a skinny waistline. Oh, how cool was that? And I was unhappy. That's just the bottom line. I just want everyone, I have no tolerance for psychological or emotional pain. I can take a punch. I'm an athlete. I'm a rebounder. Physically, I've been through cancer. I'm a cancer survivor. I did the whole route of the chemo, blah, blah, blah. But when it comes to emotional discomfort, if I'm not happy, I'm thinking about how to change it or move on. So I'm on court 8. I want everyone to get the picture. I'm on court 8 at the Charles Street Indoor Tennis Club. We're raging. Everything is going good. And I'm standing there thinking to myself, God has a bigger plan for me. I can do more. I can touch more people in a different way. This is glorious, but it isn't good enough. How do I shift? So here's a plan. Here's an actionable plan. I'm a teacher. I'm a trainer. I want people to write this down if they care. On that day, I said, I know how I'm going to do this. I teach some of the wealthiest people in New England. Bob Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, taught his whole family tennis. I went to the 5 most powerful people that I was teaching tennis to. I asked them for a 15-minute meeting because they were all big shots. And when I sat in front of them, I just asked them to be my mentor. I said, you've watched me in action. I've worked with your children, with your family. You've watched my junior development program, all of this work. Who am I? If I were to make a change, what would I be? You're brilliant. You're no business. I don't know anything about business. What would I be? And every one of them, Jill, said the same thing. Sell something. You need to be in sales. But you, with your ego, you can't sell pencils. You've got to sell something grand. And I was very excited with that information. I could go dive into this very deep. I was conflicted, but I was mostly excited. One of them, God bless him, one of these titans of New England business said, Jay, I have the perfect guy for you to meet with. His name is George Nadaff, and he is the king of franchising. I said, wow, what's he do? He sells franchises for about $250,000 by putting speakers in fancy hotels in front of 50 to 100 people giving a 45 to 60-minute speech. You would be great at it. I said, great, set the meeting up. Now, I'm not foolish. I realize I'm going for a job interview in something I know nothing about with no background. So I decided not to fudge it. I decided candor would be the order of the day. But I sort of backed that up by doing one strategic, intelligent thing. I went and bought my first blue suit. I went to Simon and Sons in Copley Square, downtown Boston, bought a blue suit, and then went to Filene's basement and bought a Mark Cross briefcase. I never opened that briefcase. I spent more on the briefcase than on the suit, but at the very least, I wanted to feel like I was stepping into something that was authentic. And I wanted to look the part before I was the part. So I walked into George Nadeff's enormous, just imposing office. I saw him sitting behind the silliest, largest desk I've ever seen. It was like, Hulk and the Vikings meet the Pope. I mean, it was like, whoa, that's a desk. And immediately, my assessment, I'll never forget the moment. I said, oh my God, this guy is bold. I got to be bold. I got to step this thing up. I can't timid. So I go sit down in front of him, and he very politely says, Jay, Mark Roberts has told me wonderful things about you. He tells me you're a great, great talent. And so I'm so excited about this meeting. Can I read your resume first? And I said, well, George, I don't have a resume. He said, oh, you left it in the car or you forgot it at home? I said, no, no, I don't have a resume. Oh, well, then why don't you just talk me through your business and franchise background? I said, well, I don't have either of those. In fact, I don't even like business. If I'm at Logan Airport getting on an airplane and I'm looking at the magazine rack, I'm certainly not buying Success or Fortune or Entrepreneur. Blech! I'm over in the sports section. So then he gets perplexed, and I see it, and I say, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, why did I even come here? And I'll tell you why. And just help me out a little bit. Mark tells me that you put men and women in fancy hotels in front of qualified audiences to tell a 45-minute story and get them to say yes to something. Is that how it works? He goes, yes. I said, well, put me on the team because me standing up is the best thing you could ever do. Put me in front of your audience. And then I watched them be deliberate. It worked a little bit. And then I said, but I can prove it. You don't have to take my word for it. Is that your brochure? And he had a threefold little crappy brochure on his desk that described their business offering. I said, I'm going to take that brochure and I'm going to go out into the lobby, give me 15 minutes, and I'm going to come back in this massive office of yours. You put every salesperson you have, partners, manager, put everyone in this room, and I will give you a presentation. And if it soars, put me on the team. And if it stinks, throw me out the back door. End of story. I want to prove it to you. So I went out, and of course, Jill, I'm not telling you this story because I puked on my shoes. I walk into the room, and he had done exactly what I asked him to do. That was what was curious. He put the whole sales team in the room, couple managers, and I recognized immediately. I want everyone, all of this stuff is important. I recognized immediately that I didn't have a friend in the room. I knew that they wanted to assassinate the young upstart. I could just feel that negative energy. So I did what, you remember Spinal Tap where the drummer keeps exploding? I just deleted the entire group of them, and I had an audience of one, George Nadeff. Just me and George in that audience. And I went on, I don't know, 8 to 10 minutes. God knows what I was doing. He then throws everybody out of the room. The minute I'm done, he says, get out of here. Jay, come here. Kid, not one thing was accurate. Not one detail was correct. It was ridiculously foolish, but boy, was that a great presentation. That was a great speech. We can smooth out the edges. You can learn the content, but I want you in front of my audiences. So that is my most important share with people. Know what you do well, whatever it is. Now, sometimes people say, oh, well, Jay, that's just about you because you've been telling stories and God gave you words, and that's true. I have a lot of limitations, but not speaking is one of them. I can speak. And the more people I'm in front of, the happier I am. So, but the truth of the matter is, what that story I hope is going to resonate with some plumber. Some 25-year-old plumber is in a truck in Akron, Ohio. His name isn't on the truck. He's riding beside the owner of the truck, yet he's young enough to still be dreaming of owning a beautiful home in a residence in Akron that has 3,500 square feet and a swimming pool and a playroom for the children. But he's not going to get it sitting next to the owner. He's got to get it by dreaming about scale. I want to own my own truck. I want my own name on the truck. I want to then duplicate and scale myself and have 5 trucks. And eventually, 10 years from now, I want 10 trucks. So it's all about, and you don't have to wait. You just don't have to wait for credentials.